So as with all functions, these sine, cosine, and tangent functions that we've been working with, they are functions, which means they have inverse operations. And the inverse of trig functions is a result of switching the input and the output, which gives us a new type of function called an inverse trigonometric function. Now, all of this to say, it's really kind of confusing until you understand what you have been finding with regular trigonometry this whole time. So when you've been doing regular trig, remember how you've been plugging in angle measurements. So when I ask you sine of pi over 6 is an angle. So we've been plugging in an angle and getting out a function value like 1/2 or square root 3 over 2. So the angles were on the inside, function values were on the outside. When we start to do inverse trigonometry, which is notated in different ways, it's the sine to the -1. That's called inverse sine. Everybody say inverse sine. Inverse sine. And honestly, I never actually Googled this, but I've always assumed that because before computers got smart enough to actually make exponents, they didn't want to write a -1 next to the word, to sin -1, be very confusing. So there's also another way we write inverse trig, and it's called arc sine. Everybody say arc sine. They literally mean the same thing. They can be used interchangeably. So I prefer to use this one, and I will do that the most. But if you see this, it means the exact same thing. Arc sine, arc cosine, arc tangent mean the same thing as inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent. I just like using this one. That's my personal preference. But when we are doing inverse trig, what we are doing is we are switching the inputs and outputs of our regular trig. So look how this time inverse sine has a function value on the inside and an angle measurement on the outside. So it would be something like asking you, what is the inverse sine of 1/2? And you'd have to give me an angle like pi over 6. So we're going to be now working with our unit circle backwards. We're going to be asking you to tell me these values backwards. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Now, the reason it's kind of complicated is because there are restricted domains for inverse trig functions. If we think about what an inverse function is, a function itself must pass the vertical line test. And an inverse function is a reflection of this graph, so we actually need it to pass the horizontal line test to be considered an invertible function. So right now, does this function pass the horizontal line test? Does this horizontal line I'm drawing pass the graph only once? No, it passes it a bunch of times, correct? So if we are trying to write the inverse of sine, we're going to have to restrict our domain, or basically karate chop part of our graph off so that it does actually pass the horizontal line test. Specifically, we are going to karate chop our graph and only use from -pi over 2 to pi over 2. Do you see this little section right here? It passes the horizontal line test, correct? Yes. So we're good to go. But what that means is that we are not allowed to use the entire unit circle to answer inverse trig functions. Take your unit circle paper plate right now, and I want you to fold it on the y-axis. So fold it like this, but fold it on the outside. Let me go grab mine. What am I doing? Okay, so if I fold this direction, sorry, that was a weird way to say it, okay? I am only looking at which two quadrants right now? The A quadrant and the C quadrant. Quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. This is technically showing me from -pi over 2 to +pi over 2. Because 0 is right here, yes, on the x-axis. And if I go clockwise, I'm going negative. So this is -pi over 2. And this is +pi over 2. So when you're doing inverse trig on this unit circle for sine, you have to fold it like this, and you can only answer questions in these two domains, because we had to karate chop our graph to only include from -pi over 2 to pi over 2. Got it? Okay, let's look at cosine for a bit. For cosine, which we are looking at now on a graph, again, does it currently pass the horizontal line test? No. We also need to karate chop this graph so that it does. You'll notice there's a little bolded section right here. That section is from 0 to pi. If we highlight just this little section right here, Now cosine passes the horizontal line test. How can I fold my unit circle so that it's only showing me from 0 to pi? The other way meaning what? Yeah, Juliana got it. So I'm folding it to where which two quadrants are only one showing? 1 and 2. This is from 0 to pi. From 0 to pi. So anytime I'm asking you an inverse trig function, you have to look at your unit circle, but only in the top two quadrants. From 0 to pi. Because we had to karate chop this graph. So let's review. Fold it like you're looking at inverse sine. Inverse sine, only the first and the fourth quadrant. Inverse cosine, only the first and the second quadrant. Okay. Now we looked at the graph of tangent last class, and here's what the graph of tangent looked like for us. It's the slopes of the radius connecting those points together. And again, this entire function would not pass the horizontal line test. But can you think of how we might karate chop this graph so that it does? Just like take one of the little things, right? So if I take one of those little elongated S's, if you will, I'm looking at this little chunk right here in the middle, going from the first negative vertical asymptote to the first positive vertical asymptote, which is from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2 exclusive. So not including the vertical asymptotes, obviously, because we can't use those. So question, if this one is also restricted from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, how can I fold my unit circle to look at inverse tangent? It would be folded exactly like sine, correct? Okay, so that's nice. We only have to remember two things. Folding it like this is sine and tangent inverses. Folding it like this is cosine's inverse. This is going to be very important for us as we start to actually ask you questions that require you to answer inverse trigonometric equations. Kim, you had a question? Okay. Sine, cosine, tangent. Back to the beginning. Okay. To reiterate this fact to you, I have this visual, so now you don't have to remember me trying to hold my unit circle up here where you can't see me. For sine, we only can use from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2 for inverse sine. Inverse cosine can only use from 0 to pi. And inverse tangent can only use from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. So these shaded regions on your notes are the only sections of this unit circle that we're allowed to use. Here are some annotations I want us to make here. For inverse sine, if you're finding the inverse sine of a positive function value, that means the angle is going to come from quadrant 1. If you are finding the sine value of a negative function value, then that is coming from quadrant 4. If we look at cosine inverse, the positive is going to be in quadrant 1. The negative means the angle will be in quadrant 2. Last but not least, we have tangent. If you are taking the tangent of a positive function value, that angle will be in quadrant 1. And if the function value is negative, the angle will be in quadrant 4. Notice all of the plus signs are in what quadrant? A. Easy. The negative ones are going to be what's confusing because they're in different quadrants. Also, what's confusing, did I tell you you could use anything on this side of the circle? No. So if I asked you to find a function value and it was negative, do you think I would be allowed to find an angle that was this big? No, because what am I not allowed to do? I'm not allowed to use the left side of the circle at all. So what we're going to have to do is instead of using large obtuse angles or more than obtuse angles for sine and tangent, you're just going to use negative angles, meaning you're going to use small acute angles in the negative direction. So like maybe negative pi over 6, negative pi over 4, negative pi over 3, or negative pi over 2. Same vibe for tangent. However, for cosine, you can't use negative. You have to use the obtuse angles between 0 and pi. Now, what does that mean? Great question. I'm so glad you asked. Here's what it could look like. Let's say I'm asking you to find the inverse cosine of negative square root 2 over 2. Okay, fold your unit circle like it's for inverse cosine. How am I folding it? The top. Okay, looking only at the top. Can you find one of these coordinate points where the x-coordinate for cosine is negative square root 2 over 2? Yeah. What is... Which one? 3 pi over 4. Negative square root 2 over 2 should be 3 pi over 4. So we now have answered an inverse trigonometric question. Before class today, you would have only been able to do the cosine, regular cosine, of 3 pi over 4, and you would have told me negative square root 2 over 2. Now I'm asking you the question in reverse. I'm asking you inverse cosine of negative square root 2 over 2. You're giving me 3 pi over 4. Let's try another one. I want you to find the inverse sine of negative square root 3 over 2. We fold the unit circle. How do we fold it? Yes. Where is the y-coordinate, because it's sine, negative square root 3 over 2? 5 pi over 3. Now, here's the problem. If we answer 5 pi over 3, that's wrong, because 5 pi over 3 is, thank you for saying it though, is going all the way around the circle. That's not what we want, right? So instead, how do we go just down to that angle? Make it negative, but we make 5 pi over 3 negative? It's just negative pi over 3. We just take off the number and slap a negative on it, absolutely. Because we're not going all the way around to meet at that reference angle, we're just going down to meet the reference angle. Reference angle is pi over 3, boop, in the negative direction. So thank you so much for falling for my trick. Can we try one more? Yes. Inverse tangent of square root 3. Again, how do you fold this for tangent? Tangent is top 2. Oh wait, no, you were right. I'm so sorry. I was testing you. What is the tangent? So what angle gives me square root 3?
By itself, just by itself, nothing below it.
Well, that's a question. Which quadrant are we in? For positive.
Oh wait, I'm not supposed to look for it.
This one is just pi over 3. Because for positive function values, we should be in quadrant 1. All of the angles are acute angles in quadrant 1. So what was written on the back of yours, it's not written on the back of mine, where you found square root 3, yeah, was for the row when we did pi over 3. So inverse tangent of square root 3 is pi over 3. Let's look at our last question on our notes. And the reason I paused here is because it's an AP style question, which means it's weird. It looks like it, right? It says angle theta is in standard position. Here's theta. The terminal ray, that's this, intersects a unit circle at point P. Here's P, whose coordinates are x, comma, y. Okay. Points Q, R, and S are the results of the terminal ray being reflected over the x-axis, the origin.
The y-axis.
Yeah, you know what I mean. The y-axis, the origin, and the x-axis, respectively. For each of the following expressions, we're going to determine which labeled point intersects the terminal ray at the given angles. The first one says, find the inverse cosine of x. We want to know the inverse cosine of x. X is here. Do we see this? Well, we don't have angles here, so it's just asking me which point would give me that. P. This is point P. It is. What about the inverse sine of negative y?
Negative Q R.
Okay. Let's add.
S.
It would be S, and here's why. Let's actually add the coordinate points for Q, R, and S. Q is negative x and y. P is that's R, negative x, negative y, and S is x comma negative y. Do you understand what I'm doing there?
Yeah.
Okay, left to the negative, down is negative. Okay, great. So if I was looking for negative y, where are the two coordinate points that have a negative y? The bottom half. But am I allowed to use this one? No, so I have to answer with S.
So how does that work if you can't use it?
You just straight up can't use it. It's not defined for inverse trig. It would be, we would just never answer that one. We'd have to answer like a different angle. Remember how angles got negative and angles got positive in the two quadrants? We ignore those other two quadrants because they're chopped off. Okay, how about inverse cosine of negative x? Okay, why could not it be here? We can't use it. Very good. Third quadrant is like the ugly stepchild of inverse trig. It's not used at all. Sorry. Quadrant 3. Now, inverse tangent of negative y over s.
Would it be R? It's R because it's negative y over.
So let's back up a second. Inverse tangent. Which two quadrants am I allowed to use for inverse tangent?
Oh.
Which one of these 2 points would get negative? It would be S because
But why wouldn't it be like a negative S?
it just wants, you're doing too much. You're doing too much a little bit because it just wants the coordinate point where that would happen. And since these coordinates are different units, it would be negative y over x. Let's say with no unit circle, I ask you the following question. I ask you to tell me the inverse sine of 1/2. Okay, without a unit circle, I know it's sine. For the hand trick, is sine the number of fingers above or below? Below. So how many fingers do I want showing below my reference angle? 1. What finger should I put down so there's 1?
Oh my god, it's 6.
It's pi over 6.
That's easy.
Okay. Can I ask you another one?
Yes.
What if I ask you for inverse cosine of square root 2 over 2? Show me what finger you would put down to make that happen. Over 4, we want 2 fingers above because of this number right here. We want 2 fingers above. What finger is that? Oh, this one's still positive though. So it's just pi over 4. Which does bring me to my next point. What if this question was negative square root 2 over 2? You still are looking for 2 fingers above, but since it's negative, for inverse cosine, that means I'm in quadrant 2. What's the pi over 4 angle in quadrant 2? Oh, remember, cosine gets to stay positive. It gets to be the obtuse angle ones. Over 4. It's always over 4 because it's this finger. We just have to figure out what number. And if I went further, and this time I ask you the sine of, or inverse sine of negative 1/2, we already did 1/2 earlier. We want 1 finger down. So what reference angle is that? Pi over 6. But since it's negative, it's just negative pi over 6. Okay, so the reason I started you with the unit circle is because we want a visual of what we're doing. But remember, you don't get that reference later. So we do want to start translating it back to the unit circle on our hand. And it's just telling you how many fingers to put down or to have showing so you know the reference angle. Let's quick review. What angle is this? The pinky.
Pi over 2. Wait, 0.
0. What angle is this? Ring finger? And then ring index is, okay. Pi over 3, pi over 2 is the thumb. Very good. Okay.